Hello, good people, and welcome to Hillbilly Cat History. Today, we're doing our third part on Dee Presley, or Dee Stanley, or Dee Elliott, or Davada Mae, however you want to think about her. Hi, Jeff. Hi, Debbie from California. Hi, Pamela. Hi, Monica. Thank you all so much for coming. Appreciate seeing you here. We're going to get started with a song, and this is going to be Crucible of a Warrior.
Still flame, hammer in hand, carved out his name. 16 in airborne boots in the dirt, jumping through walls, so baptized and hurt. Karate in Japan, fists like steel, champion of honor, deadly and real. Sensei, a warrior's no room for doubt. You wear the G or you train and come back. Your eyes a crucible, baby, not a showbiz belt. You bleed, you break, you feel a warrior's spell. Elvis hit the map, but he rolls with a roll. Sneer in his soul, ready for war. It's burning, burning, burning through the pain. Crucible of a warrior, forged in Hank's domain. 30 throws, not dances, a fight. Bones to set, boards shattered on sight. Shoot or elbow, fingertip flame. Every strike a prayer, every cater name. 6 weeks of fire, no cameras, no fame. Just sweat and bruises, no one played tame. Saw came in, fist like a stone, said put him down, break ribs if it's known. It's a crucible, baby, not a velvet crown. You fall, you crawl, but you don't stay down. Elvis hit the map, but he rose with the raw. Sneer in his soul, ready for war. It's burning, burning, burning through the pain. Crucible of a warrior, forged in Hank's domain. All eyes watched the king that day. Would he crumble or would he stay? But Hank saw it, war in his eyes. Not a quitter, but a fighter who rise. From Hollywood lights to dojo dust, Elvis earned it not on fame, but trust. No stunt, no script, just grit and bruise. Black belt truth, not a headline. Roots a crucible, baby, not a stage or set. You earn every inch, every beat of sweat. Elvis hit the map, but he rolls with a roar. Steer in his soul, ready for war. It's burning, burning, burning through the pain. Crucible of a warrior. They burst through the fire, broke through the fear. The dojo legends of kings stood clear. Crucible of a warrior. Elvis was here.
Thank you for gathering here at Hillbilly Cat History, where we remember together and listen for the echoes. Hi, Marion. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate seeing you here. Well, we've got to get started with our new starting feature, which is What's on the Bookshelf. We're going to do a non-Elvis book, one that I've never read, and an Elvis book that I have read. Today's book that I haven't read and has nothing to do with Elvis is The Killer Angels. And it's one of these larger size paperbacks by Michael Shara. And it says, the best and most realistic historical novel about war I have ever read, General H. Norman Schwarzkopf. That's the guy who was general in Desert Storm. This also says it's a Pulitzer Prize winning Civil War novel. So it's about the Civil War in the United States. The Killer Angels. In the back, it does have a wraparound picture cover. Although it doesn't come out very well in this camera. And a bunch of text. But it's about the American Civil War. I haven't read widely about the American Civil War, but I've always wanted to kind of read more, and that's why it's on the bookshelf, but it just never quite makes it into the next book read list. Jeff says that sounds interesting. And here is the Elvis book. This is a hardback Elvis book to which I do not have the dust jacket. This particular book was printed in 1960. It was really written, I think, in 1959 and finally made it out into print into 1960. It is this book, which doesn't have the title on the cover, but it does on the side. It is Operation Elvis. And this book is about a bunch of fans who were very unhappy that Elvis went into the army. And they got together and they did things about it. And this is a history of what they did, basically. You know, they wrote to people saying they didn't like it. They wrote to Elvis to keep his spirits up. They did this or that. This is a fan book about that was printed just as he was coming back, really. We can see there's some cartoons in here about Elvis, and he's getting his army physical. Everybody is watching. The cartoon has no actual caption. It's just about all these people always with their eyes on Elvis. This book is out there. You can find it. I didn't look for a price on it right now. I got it for very cheap. I didn't spend more than $10 on any of these books. But with the dust jacket and everything, it gets a little more expensive. I only got it because it was cheap. I'd never heard about it before. And then I was very pleasantly surprised to find that it was a very old and kind of vintage fan book. It wasn't as much about Elvis as I wanted, but it was about Elvis fans. And that's something I've grown to love a lot more. And this says, the weary graduate of basic training hankers for a girl, home cooking, and a few old friends. And so I guess this is Anita Wood waiting for Elvis outside of Fort Hood in Texas. And so the book is just a bunch of fans, really. So it's kind of a nice read. Everything in it is, you know, very, very pro Elvis. So if you want to see a very pro Elvis book, that's one of them. But it only brings you up to the time that he went into the army. And Debbie says that they wrote songs about Elvis when he was going into the army, and that it's on Amazon right now for $5, 117 pages. Yeah, it's not really thick, not an amazing thing, but for $5, especially if you get the dust jacket, it is a very just cute piece of history. And when you look through here, do you see these cartoons? You're going to realize you've seen these cartoons. They were, especially this one on the front. Let me show you that one again. This particular depiction of Elvis, it gets reprinted on all kinds of stuff throughout the 60s and even into the 70s. And then it kind of hits the bootleg market and it becomes everywhere, along with several of the cartoons in this book. Not really the full cartoon, but they're depictions of Elvis. So now let's move to, you can see on the screen in the background, we're at the meat shop. And we're at the meat shop because we're looking at these tabloids that the Stanleys were involved in. And this time it's 1978. And like all the tabloids and like all the people involved with them, unfortunately, there's a bit of a meat shop thing going on where Elvis is being, his history is being chopped up, it's being repackaged, it's being sold out here, maybe as something that it's not, right here at the meat shop. This has been the background for all of this little mini series, which we're most likely finishing today. And Memphis Song is asking, what years was he in the Army? Well, welcome, Memphis Song. I don't think I've ever seen you here before, so welcome to the chat. Appreciate seeing you here. He was in the Army from March of 1958 until March of 1960. And Debbie says 58 through 60. That is correct. And the day that he got out, he kissed a sergeant in the Air Force in front of everybody. That sergeant happened to be Marion Keisker, the woman who discovered Elvis at Sam Phillips, depending on exactly which myth and legend you go with. But Elvis loved her, and when he saw her there, he said to her, "I don't know whether to salute you or to kiss you." And she said, "In that order." And that's what he did. But now we're moving on to 1978, Memphis. Although it's really a picture of 72, but 77 Memphis looks very similar to this. Hopefully they finished the construction we can see in this picture. We're going to come back to this Memphis address book that I'm showing you. But first, we're going to start with this picture of Dee Elliott, at this time Stanley. She's married to Sergeant Stanley, or in this case, I think it's Private Bill Stanley. And this is the beginning of her second marriage. She was married once before this for maybe a year. The other feller was married to somebody else within 2, so it wasn't too long. This we looked at yesterday, as well as this next one. These are death certificates for 2 infants. They were both the child of these 2. So they had 2 babies in about a year, and neither of them lived. They lived for about a day, each one. And Debbie says, beautiful picture. Hi, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate seeing you here. This is Bill. He's a sergeant in this one, so this is a little bit later. Now, from the information I have, which I don't have verified yet, but I believe it was in one of the Memphis Mafia books, they identified that he had been a bodyguard for General Patton in World War II. That Elvis was aware of this, and he was very respectful of this man. There's a lot of stuff thrown around about the guy and what people have said about him, but what I know for sure is he was a sergeant in the Army, and maybe this bodyguard for General Patton. I'm trying to track something down that'll prove that for us. So he does have virtues, whatever his failings are. Hi, Tarzan. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate seeing you here. This is their young family. Billy, Ricky, David. So David would be the smallest one. He's in the lap. Ricky is the one with the blonde hair looking off to the side. And the one that's looking directly into the camera with that very mischievous grin, that's Billy. And I'm assuming he's named for his father, who is truly William, but everybody calls him Bill. And then we've got Dee, who's standing behind them. And Debbie's asking, which one is Billy? I think he's the one that's looking directly into the camera. Just like his father. The two Bills, they're looking into the camera. And so is Dee. But the other two, they're looking off to the side. You got to wonder what's going on over there at the side. Does this picture represent the way the family always was? Because we got two with a split attention. We got three that got their eye on the ball. And Jeff says, we've got a Tarzan and we've got a Jane in the chat. I don't know if we got a Jane in the chat. Maybe we could get one. And here's when they got married. We went through that part of the story yesterday. So if you missed any of the previous episodes, we've done 2 about Dee so far. In this particular article we're looking at. I've also got 2 other videos out there about Dee. One is about a Bible that she owned, and she wrote everybody in the family, their names inside it, except for Elvis. And in another one, she holds a seance, 2 seances for Elvis after he's passed away. So if you missed either one of those, they're in the archive waiting for you. And here we've got Vernon and Dee from some newspaper article. They look happy together. This is Dee with the 3 young boys. I think this is about the time they came to live at Graceland. They look about that age. I would say that Billy is the tallest one over on the far left. I believe David is the one in the pinkish jacket. Now, this is an AI colored picture, so don't depend on the colors, but they do help us identify the boys in this case. So he's kind of wearing the pinkish red jacket. I think that's David. And eventually, I think David outgrows them all and becomes larger than the other 2. But right now, Ricky's kind of spurting up a little. He's got the blonde hair in the middle with the green jacket on. And in this picture, they're quite a bit older. They're still in their teens, or just maybe they're preteens, but I think they're into their teens at this point, probably like between 13 and 15. And Ricky's holding Lisa Marie. I believe it's David over on the far left, and I think it's Billy over on the right. But we can't see their faces. We can only see their hair. It's amazing how similar all their hair is in this picture. We got a picture of Dee. And it's somewhere when she looks something like this. I think that's about the time that she was telling us that Priscilla had come over for a visit, and it had worked really well, and she and Vernon had gone to pick up Priscilla in New York City, and they brought her back to Graceland. So she says, by that time, Vernon and I had left Graceland, which is a little bit after this. Priscilla wants to come back. Elvis has asked if, is that what she had said here, that Elvis had asked? I think so, that Elvis had asked if Priscilla could live with them, or that idea had been broached. And Dee says that by the time Vernon and I had left Graceland, we had been there for 2 years. Now, I don't think they've been there quite 2 years, but it was pretty close. So they spent a substantial amount of time living in the apartment that was the converted garage. And so you got 3 young boys, and they've got to be up and at school at certain times. And whenever Elvis is home, of course, he's living at night. And so that's got to be difficult on everybody. So it makes sense that they've got to find their own place. You really don't need reasons beyond that, but people put a lot of reasons there. And I'm absolutely certain that this lady on screen, beautiful as she is, was very difficult to live with. And Elvis could be difficult in his own ways. And you got Vernon on top of it. And you got the three boys. You got Grandma. And so things are getting tight in there. I'm not sure. I think Gene and Louise have already left. But you've got a constant flow of other people. And so it makes sense that a young family, a family with young children, they need to be somewhere else. Unless Elvis had young children at the same time, then everything might have worked out. But that's not what happened. And Jeff says he always wanted to see a picture of the converted garage, but never has. Yeah, me too. Like, is it multiple rooms? Is the kitchen over to the side? Like, I want to see what all's in there. I feel like I saw it once, but I wasn't aware of what I was looking at. And Elizabeth says she thinks that Dee was very difficult from what she's heard from a lot of people, and Elvis could be difficult also. And yeah, and Vernon could be very difficult. And Elizabeth says it would be a lot of people going in and out. Yeah, so I don't think we've got to assign bad motivations to anybody to understand that, you know, it'd be a good idea if they live somewhere else. But maybe there were. I'm not saying there weren't bad feelings there. I'm just saying we don't have to get that far in order to understand what's going on here. And Dee says that we got a home of our own in the Hickory. Let me see if I can get this on a different screen. Let's try this side. She says we have been there 2 years and we got a home of our own in the Hickory Hills section of Memphis. Priscilla moved in with us. Now, where is this Hickory Hills section of Memphis? That's why we're going to go back to this Memphis address book. It's the Hillbilly Cat History Memphis address book. So I've put together a whole lot of addresses most people probably don't know about Elvis Presley, including, starting here at the top, the Strand Theater, 138 South Main Street, Memphis, Tennessee, where on July 9th, 1957, Elvis, Anita Wood, Gene Smith, and Louise Fondren, who would later become Gene's wife, attended a special midnight screening of the Elvis movie, Loving You. So that's a theater. It's got a lot more connections to Elvis than just that, but I've only really put one for each of these places here. I got a whole book of this. I've thought about publishing it. So if you guys would be interested in owning something like this, let me know. But we've also got Burke's Florist, 1609 South Bellevue Boulevard, Memphis, Tennessee. And beginning with her death in August 1958, Elvis opened a standing weekly order for fresh flowers to be placed at his mother Gladys Presley's grave. And Elvis patronized this business for all of his flower needs. Now, I don't know that he didn't go anywhere else for flowers, but he definitely looked to these guys first. And Jeff says he's seen pictures of this corner house. Well, it wasn't quite a corner house. And Marion says that she's guessing Elvis bought their house for them. He did. Of course, we don't know the details about that. Was it a gift from Elvis? Was it a way to give Vernon more money without having to pay certain taxes on it? Was it advantageous for Elvis to own it, or did Vernon own it? I don't know any of those details. But it's really Elvis that's, you know, it's his power of money that's behind the financing, no matter how it happens. And Memphis Song says South Mendenhall, not a great area these days. And so the next one on this list in the address book is Vernon and Dee Presley, Billy, Ricky, and David Stanley, 3655 Hermitage Street, Memphis, Tennessee. Elvis bought this house for Vernon, Dee, Billy, Ricky, and David to live in, with all those caveats that I've already said that we don't know about the details. But Elvis did arrange this. Like, he called the realtor and got it done. Like, his guy. I don't know if he did it personally, but his guys did it, and it got done through him. Because Vernon didn't pick this house. It's because Vernon did not care for it. And he traded it to the realtor for $36.50 Hermitage Drive. And this is the house that's on the corner that you've seen the picture of. And Debbie says there was a reason why he bought his dad a house. Yeah, he moved everything along. If anyone thought maybe it wasn't time to move out, Elvis, he solved that issue. And he did it the easiest way. He just bought the house. And then Vernon, one way or the other, Vernon had to deal with it. So he traded it for this one that he liked better. It's a little bit of ways from Graceland. That tells you something about what Elvis was thinking as well. He needed a place. He needed it now. He needed to purchase it immediately. So that does lend credence to the stress level was high. It was very high, and it needed to be brought down. And this house was owned by Vernon Presley. And again, owned is a loose term, meaning he lived there along with Dee and the Stanley boys. And that he preferred this home to the other one because this one had a corner lot, which Vernon felt provided better value for the purchase price. And I think that's an interesting insight into Vernon's psyche. He's concerned to get the best value for the money. So it's not like he spent more or anything. He feels like he got a better deal because he got the corner lot. And that's important to a guy like Vernon. Because the corner lot, that's real. You've really got the corner. The value, that's always negotiable and changing. Now, Priscilla lived here at 3650 Hermitage Street when she first moved to Memphis from Germany. Now, the last one that we've got is Travis, Lorraine, and Billy Smith, 4935 Fairleigh, Memphis, Tennessee. I've never seen this place, actually, but I was able to locate and verify this address. It was like in a newspaper or an article or something. And it says, the Travis Smith family home. When Travis's nephew, Carol Jr. Smith, passed away at the age of 28 in a bedroom here on February 5th, 1961. So this is where they lived at that moment in time. Where did they go? Where did they stay? Were they there very long? I don't know, but this is one of Billy Smith's homes. This is after they lived in the house that was behind Graceland. And Jeff says, so 2 houses before the Dolan house. Exactly. It's always more complicated than you think the story really is with Elvis. He's a very mythical person, and the layers just keep peeling back. So if you guys would like to return to the address book at some point, let me know in the chat or the comments. But right now, we're going to return to the article that we're looking at. And Dee says, we enrolled Priscilla at a local Catholic school and a model agency. Now, those two things, they go together, right? Catholic school, model agency. I don't know a Catholic schoolgirl that doesn't go to a model agency, right? I don't know. That just seems odd to me that you'd even put that together in a sentence, but there was nothing wrong with it. I mean, it just seems odd to me, especially for the 1960s. But Dee says, we enrolled her at a local Catholic school and a model agency for which Elvis paid. Even when on tour, Elvis would check with me that Priscilla was attending classes and doing her homework. So Elvis was attentive to Priscilla to ensure that she got these things done. And Dee says, I remember that Priscilla would go to her room and she would wait for Elvis to call her, which he did nearly every day. If Elvis missed, Priscilla would get upset and no doubt imagine that Elvis was dating some lovely star. I'm sure that Priscilla did imagine that. I'm not sure that it wasn't correct. I think he actually was dating some stars at that time, and they were very lovely. And Dee says, finally, he married Priscilla, and we all thought how lucky he was. I think that was almost a universal feeling at the time. I'm not sure that's the same way people still feel about it. Hi, Mike. Thank you for coming. Appreciate seeing you here. And then Dee says that Elvis, Vernon, and an entourage of about 15 would go on tour. And Priscilla and I would be left at either my house or Graceland. So Dee indicates that she and Priscilla were lonely together because the guys were off on tour. Dee says that as Southern gentlemen, Vernon and Elvis treated their women with respect, but they did not want them around all the time. Dee says that often Elvis and Vernon would go into a room and talk business, and Priscilla and I would be left outside, not daring to even knock, let alone walk in. I think that's a really interesting tidbit. Elvis and Vernon spent time alone, away from everyone, just the two of them together talking things over. Now, I've been telling you all this time that Vernon was the one guy that Elvis could really trust. I think there was a triangle that included the Colonel, but it's much, much tighter between Elvis and Vernon, obviously. And here's proof of it. Dee's saying that she saw them spend time together. Now, if Elvis is spending time with someone, it's really important to him. Elvis determines how his time is spent. No one else determines that for him. He's roped into certain things because he's signed up for them. He's honoring his commitments. But that means he wants to do that ultimately, even if it's chafing. But here he's got his free time. He spends that with his dad all by himself. And Debbie says, why did they put her in Catholic school? That was the deal. Actually, her parents wrote a letter, her father, her stepfather, I guess, and asked if she could live at Vernon and Dee's house because she needed to go to school and they wanted her to go to this specific Catholic school. Now, Dee doesn't appear to be aware of this letter from the way she's talking or from the way she's telling the story, or maybe she's just not mentioning it. You know, maybe she's putting her own spin on the story. But Priscilla says there was that letter that came from her father. And it's before everybody started looking at Priscilla not as a truth teller. So most people, there wasn't a need in her mind at that moment. Most of the things that are wonky about the statements that she makes were that she said something at one time and she's changed since then. And she said something that didn't support her story. Well, it doesn't really support that Elvis wanted her here if her dad had to write a letter to get her to come. Her story is that Elvis wanted her here, but she also tells us that her dad wrote this letter. So it's weird, but it kind of feels like there's truth there. Maybe Elvis was just smart enough to get him to write a letter. I mean, I don't know. Hi, Tammy. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate seeing you here. Now, if you haven't seen my other episode about Dee Presley's Bible, Elvis Left Out, make sure you do that. But here's a picture of Dee and her son, Billy. That's her oldest son. And Dee says that many is the time Priscilla said to me, Dee, I can't stand this anymore. I'm a wife and I haven't got a husband. So basically, Priscilla told her she felt left out because she wasn't allowed to be in that room with Vernon and Elvis, apparently. And the article says that when Lisa was born, Dee thought things would settle down between them. But Elvis seemed to be spending more months at a time on shows in Las Vegas. And Dee says the marriage started to come apart. Rumors used to get back that Elvis was with other women, but that didn't bother Priscilla too much. It was the loneliness. So Dee says it was the loneliness that got her, not the fact that Elvis was cheating. She didn't mind that. And of course, Dee says it's rumors. She's not even sure if it's true. And Francis said that Elvis did not care for Dee, just tolerated her because of his father. Yeah, well, you wouldn't have had much choice, right? Like, you can't get rid of her now. She's married in. And Dee says that I could see in Priscilla's eyes that she wanted to be alone with Elvis. She was genuinely being hurt. Often she would say, let me try to get to this next page here. Let's see if I can get this to a readable size. Often she would say that she wished that Elvis had a 9-to-5 job. And finally she broke and said, I've had enough. I've had enough. I'm going. So apparently she told Dee when she was leaving and she was breaking up with Elvis. Dee's not mentioning anything about her saying that she was with another guy or that she'd found someone else or when exactly this was. Dee says that Priscilla went off with Lisa to Los Angeles. Elvis was heartbroken but wouldn't talk about it. Thinking back, I believe this was the beginning of the end for him. So this was apparently before the divorce. Maybe this was the beginning of the separation that Dee's talking about. And Marion says that Elvis did seem to like the boys. How could he not? They were just young little boys at the time. They hadn't grown to be the people that we know now. And Big Money Mike says that unfortunately there were so many leeches around Elvis. And Francis said that Priscilla always said that she hated the fact that Elvis was cheating on her, so I don't think she would have said that to Dee. That's an interesting note. That's very interesting. And Tammy says Priscilla knew what she was getting herself into. She should have. She'd spent a lot of time preparing for it. And Dee says that I still saw Elvis regularly, and I noticed he was beginning to put on weight, had trouble taking the weight off, spent more and more time in bed, and that he ate unwisely. So Dee did not approve of Elvis's diet at this period in time and said it was making him, she didn't say making him fat, so she was tactful enough about that, I think. But she is indicating that his waistline was increasing. And Dee says that, for instance, Elvis's favorite breakfast would be a fried peanut butter and banana sandwich, several of them, washed down with mountain spring water. Now, the article, they do not capitalize mountain spring water. I don't think they understand that it's a brand of spring water, and it kind of sounds like a mountain of spring water, right? But it's a brand. It's just a very particular brand. It comes in a glass bottle. It's a very expensive brand of spring water that's apparently bottled in the mountains. And Dee says his next favorite food was hamburgers. And when asked about drugs, Dee says, I know he was on medication because Billy told me that Elvis carried it around in his attaché case. But he would never discuss it with Billy, except to say it was prescribed. Well, he would never discuss it with Dee, she says me, except to say it was prescribed by doctors. So to Dee's knowledge, he has prescription medication. He carries it around, which if you've got to take prescription medication a few times a day, you do. It depends on what medication you've got. And with a guy like Elvis, he's traveling to other cities and stuff. So, yeah, he does need to take this with him. He can't get it from other places easily because all of the drugs are controlled by state in the United States. So if you travel outside of your state, your prescriptions are no longer valid. You'd have to get another doctor to back those up. That's one of the reasons that Elvis has multiple doctors. It's not, some people would accuse him of doctor shopping. You have to have a doctor in your area, in your state, in order to be able to access the medical community. Only they have licenses in their state. And Dee says, if I thought he was on anything else, I would have talked to him about it. Now that makes me wonder if Dee ever talked to Ricky or David or Billy, because they've each told us that they had their own issues with various substances. And Big Money Mike says he used to buy Elvis's favorite brand of bacon, King Cotton, and it's delicious, but he can't really find that brand anymore. And Francis says that Elvis was such a giving person and people took full advantage of it, and it was awful. And Big Money Mike says that mountain spring water pretty expensive nowadays too. Yes, it's still expensive. And Tammy says it's really none of Dee's business. It's really none of Billy's either, but he blabbed to his mom about it, and she was part of the family. She was a female in the family. There was an expectation that she would be able to care for Elvis if the need arose, just like she'd be able to care for hopefully anybody in the family. And, there was a period where she was living there in the house, so... However, this is long after that she's stating this, but it's only a couple of years after Elvis has died. They're saying this is the first time that she's spoken. It's not. We've already looked at other times, including the 2 seances. But Dee says, remember, Elvis always had trouble coming down after a performance. Some people drink. With Elvis, it was sleeping tablets. So Dee's hinting that she did see a dependency on sleeping tablets that she wasn't comfortable with, because she's indicating it's like drinking. That some people drink, but that Elvis took sleeping tablets. Now, she also said that he had trouble coming down after a performance, which would mean he'd have trouble sleeping. And we know he always had trouble sleeping, so it could be he was just taking the sleeping tablets to sleep. Dee doesn't really know. She's just indicating something seems worrisome to her there. And Dee says, as Elvis grew older, he began to be suspicious of the people around him, and in the end would trust only his father and the boys who were always with him. So we've seen her say that Elvis went off by himself with Vernon, and we know that he trusted Vernon. She's attached the three Stanley boys to that now. She says they were always with him. Now, that's not quite the way it was. She's greatly condensed pieces of the story to fit them into that one three-word portion, and the boys, and into who were always with him. So there's a lot condensed into those two portions. And Debbie says, yes, when he was young, he had trouble sleeping. He used to sleepwalk. Yeah, and even though the sleepwalking went away, he always had this sleeping issue. And Dee says that once, in tears, Elvis said to me, "Thank God I have the family, because no one else really cares about me." I patted his head and told him not to be silly. So it sounds like Elvis tried to talk to Dee about his fears, and she patted his head and told him not to be silly. Now, I don't know if that means she didn't hear his fears, or that's what he was looking for, was that reassurance, or she gave him what she thought he wanted and that wasn't it. There's a lot right there. But it sounds like he really did try to talk to her at least once or twice. And that kind of sounds like the Elvis I know when I hear that he's in pain and now he's reached out to somebody that is in the family and he thinks he can trust, at least at that moment. And then Dee says, but truly, although I never said it to him, a lot of people in his entourage were not genuine. Now that says a lot too. Dee is a very brash and outspoken woman. She doesn't hold back, and yet she's telling us she held back about this entourage. But she knew they weren't genuine. She says people like the West brothers, who wrote that terrible lying book. Dee is having an interview with the Star magazine, the very magazine that paid Red West and Sonny West and Dave Hebler, that other West brother, who wasn't a brother, but it wasn't a West boy, but he was still in on it. And Steve Dunleavy. They all got paid by the Star, the very magazine to which Dee is giving this interview and being paid. She's got to be being paid for this. So she's doing the exact same thing, but apparently doesn't see it. And Monica says, no wonder he got suspicious. And Pamela says, in Epic, Elvis says how it is hard to wind down and they would sing gospel until daylight. Exactly, that's why he would do that. And Debbie says that gospel music gives you peace in the presence of God. That's probably how Elvis felt singing gospel music. I'm sure it is. I think it was part of his meditative process. It was a shared meditative group process, a sheepfold, like a church. And Elvis couldn't go to church. He got too much attention while he was there. And Jeff says, yet they all wrote books. But they didn't all get paid by Rupert Murdoch. Only a few of them did, and Dee is part of that group. And Dee says that Elvis had weaknesses. I know his moods, shooting up TV sets and overeating. Now, she told us earlier that she never saw Elvis shoot a TV set. We know he did. It's on display at Graceland right now. You can see one of the TVs that he shot. Donna Presley will tell you a story about a TV that he shot and her dad got to haul away. But Dee never saw it. He had weaknesses. I knew his moods, shooting up TV sets and overeating, but to me, he will always be a kind young boy. Most people with his fame would have gone overboard. Elvis craved for affection, and after Priscilla left, we all tried to give it to him. Huh. I wonder if that's true. I think that Elvis had a lot of issues finding affection after Priscilla left. And during that first year with Linda, I think it was almost all supplied by her. But Elvis, according to Dee, she says, once Elvis asked me what I thought after I had seen one of his shows. And I said I didn't like something. Nobody else dared say that to him. For a moment he was quiet, and then he said calmly, well, next time I'll try to do better. That's a tough story to figure out, too. Was Elvis looking for someone to tell him that he'd done great? Did Elvis know he'd messed something up and he went to Dee, who he knew would not hold back? And she said, oh, you messed that one up. The one that he knew he'd messed up. And he said, yeah, I'm going to try to do that one better next time. Or was Dee just being snarky at him and he took it that way and he was just gracious enough to say, well, next time I'll try to do it better, because there's a lot of people around. It's hard to say, isn't it? You could read it so many different ways. Dee says that after Priscilla came, Linda Thompson, Dee says that Elvis introduced me to her, and I liked her from the start. Elvis was sick a lot during that time, and Linda would spend 24 hours a day with him, bathing him, combing his hair, and bringing his food. I think he liked her because she was religious, and Elvis himself never missed the Sunday morning gospel singers and read the Bible regularly. So Dee confirms that Elvis did read the Bible regularly. She's not saying that he didn't. Of all the things that Dee does have to say that are negative about Elvis, that's not one of them. And she confirms that on Sunday morning, he tried to worship in his own way. He watched these gospel singers. He was watching televised broadcast of church. I think Rex Humbard had one going. I believe that's why he was thinking of Rex Humbard at one point. And that she also confirms that Linda was religious, which Linda has confirmed. So all of that ties together, and they've all really got no reason to lie about that. Can't really bring them any riches for people to know that they were Christian. Here's a picture of Dee. And Dee at a later time. This is at the time she's giving this particular interview. This is at a much later period in her life. And you can see her sons. Billy is in the black jacket. Ricky's the one that's got the Nirvana t-shirt on and he's got the beard. And David's got the white shirt. He's wearing the bracelet and the necklace. That's David's look. He's stuck with that for a long time now. And Big Money Mike says that Elvis couldn't stand his toilet running all the time and he shot it. And Marion says she didn't know about that. It was the toilet in his bathroom and he shot it because he couldn't get it to stop running. And then it started really running. It was a major issue after he shot it. Do not shoot your commode. That is not a good idea. It holds water. So now this water is all over the place. And it was either Earl or Patsy Presley's husband, Gamble. Can't remember his first name, what his nickname was. Or Vernon's. One of them had to come over and like immediately take care of it because you can't just allow this water to be running all over the place. And Debbie's saying that yes, his maid Nancy Rooks to see what the noise was. and she'd seen that the toilet was blown to smithereens, and Elvis said he'd never liked that toilet anyway. Well, that's good, because he didn't have it anymore, and they needed to get a new one. But unfortunately, we've reached the end of the episode, so I swore to everybody this was a 3-part series. Looks like we're moving into part 4 tomorrow. We still got more of this particular article to go, and I got some more stuff to show you we haven't even got to. This was the seance one that we've already looked at. So if you missed that episode, go back and find it in the archive. You'll love it if you love this episode. And it's titled First Month After, What Did Dee Do? But here's another one where she spoke in 1977. And another one in 1977. Notice these are exclusives. This is a Globe exclusive. These are first times that she spoke about things. She gets to first time it over and over. This is the one we're actually looking at right now. And it also tells us how Barbara Walters has found happiness in her $1 million a year job. It must have been so tough for Barbara to find that happiness in the $1 million job. And it's one of those problems we all wish we could have. But we've run out of time, so we've got to move out of here for the day. Got to clear the floor. It's going to go out with a song. This will be Truth That Sounds Like Lies, because I don't know if it's lies or it's truth we've been listening to out of these tabloids, but it's one or the other. Or maybe both. Thank you all so much for spending your time with me today. I appreciate it. Be sure that you're subscribed so you know when the next episode is, and hit that like button. This is Truth That Sounds Like Lies, and you all keep on taking care of business.
No whisper in the family halls, no doctor's word, no shadow calls. We searched the papers after he was gone. No cancer written, no sickness drawn. Yet silence breaks in fractured skies. Truth that sounds like lies. Charlie spoke with kindness deep, repeating words he thought to keep, protecting Elvis, guarding flame, or echoing voices without a name. A loyal friend, a gentle guide, truth that sounds like lies. 3 voices sing in broken time, each one honest, each one blind. The story bends, the rumor flies. Truth that sounds like lies, fracture born of love's disguise. Truth that sounds like lies.
At Graceland's door, the doctor came. Vernon ill, his body lame. A secret spoken, hushed and great. Bone cancer spread beyond the grave. I carried words with tearful eyes. Truth that sounds like lies.
Cells that look like death's disguise, stained and studied, no disease inside. Not cancer's marked, but nature in. Her body a breaking, nothing to mend. Science clears, but rumor cries. Truth that sounds like lies. Each heart believed what it was told. Each hand held fragments, shards of gold. But when the pieces fail to bind, the world calls false what's true inside. 3 voices sing in broken time, each one honest, each one blind. The story bends, the rumor flies, truth that sounds like lies, fracture born of love's disguise, truth that sounds like lies. In the silence of the king's last song, truth and rumor both belong. A sacred ache beneath the skies, truth that sounds like lies. Oh, 17, snow on the ground, circle G, love all around. He bought that ranch, opened the gate, said come on in, let's celebrate. Tractor pulling through the snow, laughter rising, spirits glow. Both behind, wives and men, family fun again and again. He wasn't just a star in lights, he was the warmth in winter nights. Kindness wrapped in velvet flame, a heart that never played the fade. He gave us joy, he gave us grace, a piano song in a quiet place. From a jack to a king, in the moonlight ring, he gave us love, he gave us wings. Circle G, where the angels sing, he gave us everything. Riding horses, lakes so still, bridge and cross on the quiet hill. Barbecue smoke, stories told, moments more precious than gold. He asked me who I'm dating now, what I dream, what I allow. He cared like kin, not just a name. He lived for love, not for acclaim. He wasn't just a voice on stage, he was the soul behind the page. A man who'd sing to heal your day and laugh at midnight, lose away. He gave us joy, he gave us grace, a piano song in a quiet place. From a jack to a king, in the moonlight ring, he gave us love, he gave us grace. Gave us everything. Oh, he lived like a shadow in the night, famous face, but heart so bright. Couldn't walk the street like you and me, so we built a world where we were free. He gave us joy, he gave us grace, a piano song in a quiet place. From a jack to a king, in the moonlight ring, he gave us love, he gave us ways. Circle G, where the angels sing, gave us everything. He gave us everything.